Hello, it's September 11th, 2021. I want to begin by giving a moment of silence to those who lost their lives, those who were, all of us who've been affected by the events of September 11th, 2001. And wow, today just actually this just hit. So, whoo, just have a moment of silence for those that need it. Whoo, because I know I need it myself. You know, it's so hard to deal with trauma. It's so hard to deal with loss. September 11th has a lot of different meanings for me. And one really just came in, so I actually have to, and now, because my spirit is like, girl, hold on. So before I get into what I had to just kind of go and grab, I know everybody has a memory of September 11th and where they were when everything hit. And I know that for me, I was in sixth grade. I was in English class. I believe my teacher's name was Miss Ruddick. And I remember Miss Ruddick was a military brat. Because I remember her talking about just how her family used to travel and stuff a lot growing up, or how she never had a stable home or whatever. And I feel like we were in the middle of some reading lesson because we were always doing some sort of reading comprehension or some shit like that. And I remember they turned on the TV in the middle of class, there was an announcement or something happened that made all of the teachers kind of turn on their television. And that's when we saw everything that was happening as far as the towers being hit and whatnot. And for her, it was really difficult because I feel like she had a family member that was either in the towers or somebody that was an airplane pilot and everything like that. So it was just this dead silence. And of course, if I'm in sixth grade, I had to be 11, 12-year-old mind, having no fucking idea how impactful this was. Especially because I was living in Georgia at the time. And I don't know, life just changed after that. I remember we got up and they sent all of us home, and I feel like school was closed for the next day, and they brought us back later on that week. But it's just that changed our lives. And trauma changes lives. Trauma just shifts the reality of everything that we may be doing, we may be thinking, we may be feeling. And I actually, as I was sitting here, it really just hit me that September 11th is the transition date of my first love. So growing up, because all of this actually kind of ties in together. I remember I've always been an online girl. Always been I used to have, I don't know if you guys remember Zanga back in the day. If you have been around that long. But I remember back in the day, I used to have a Zanga website, or it was a live journal, essentially. Actually, I think Zango turned into live journal. I'm not necessarily, I don't remember, but I remember I used to be online and writing and all this other type of stuff. And I remember back in the day, there was this website, if you were an older gay, an elder gay, you may remember this website called XY. And it was where you could find other gay men online and stuff like that, or other queer folks. And me not necessarily, at that point I wasn't sure of my sexual, I had a feeling, but I wasn't in a place to be able to admit it. So of course I found out and was rationalizing with my own sexuality through the internet. And I remember there was this boy that I found on there. His name was Ricardo. I had to be probably 11 or 12 years old, so this had to be around this time frame actually. And I remember he was a little older, so probably 2-3 years older than me. And he went to school at in Atlanta, this school called Westlake High School. I'll never forget that. And he was kind of the first person that I ever got close to as far as the same sex. We didn't meet in person. This was somebody, I don't know if you guys did this when you were growing up too, but you sit online, you send emails back and forth, maybe you sneak them on the phone and stuff like that. And he was the person that I remember I used to go to with like everything. I had my friends, my girlfriends, like growing up, like in my small town and stuff like that. But of course, being, black, being queer, I felt very much out of place. And he was the first person that I ever met that made me feel like home. So this is a picture that I actually have from his 21st birthday, if I'm not mistaken. So I had to be 18 in this picture. I definitely remember this time period. But I remember he invited me to like his birthday party and everything like that. And at that point, like all of his friends, knew who I was, like cause he didn't grow up with like his mom. He grew up with some extended family. So his extended family like knew who I was and everything like that. And part of the reason why I ended up choosing to go to Morehouse isn't just because of my parents' desire for me to go to an HBCU. My mother went to Morris Brown for a couple of years. And I remember that she wanted me to apply to HBCU because growing up in Conyers, Georgia, of course, I did not have a very heavy black influence in my life. And I also grew up thinking I was a white woman, honestly. And carried myself thinking I was a white woman, carried myself thinking that I had the same privilege as white women. And it didn't necessarily like settle in that I was not like them until probably like high school. And I started to notice how, even though I would try to like ascertain myself or become closer to them, that I was just like very different. And he was the person that always made me feel just connected to who I was like as a whole. He attended Morehouse for a couple of years. He didn't necessarily like it. But I knew that since he went there, I was like, oh, well, maybe I could like follow it, not in his footsteps, but, have some of that influence. And I remember he was just like that person that I trusted. Probably like the first man that I had ever like met who I felt comfortable being around. He passed away on September 11th, 2010. So this marks 11 years without him in the physical realm. And I sometimes like forget that like today is like that day. And it was like, as soon as I started like talking about it out loud, it just all like started like flooding back. So needless to say, today is very rough, and it actually also makes sense as to why I woke up this morning just feeling a little sad. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like everything that's happening in our world, everything that's been happening like in my life, it's just been a lot of stress, it's been a lot of pressure. And that's part of the reason why I haven't been as communicative, as present this summer, on social media, doing readings. Like for anybody, I just haven't had the energy. I haven't had the mental capacity to really deal with a lot. And I'm still in a place where I'm coming back to that sense of grounding, coming back to just feeling okay. It's been a very wavy summer. It's been a very, it's like, you want to be grateful for all of the blessings that have come into your life, and you want to be, I am grateful. Like, I'm not saying that I'm not. I feel like this summer has been really great for my career. This summer has been really lucrative as far as just like, new opportunities and stuff like that. But it's also been one of the most emotionally taxing summers of my life. I also, because for some reason I was just like, I was given very Trisha Takanawa, where I wanted to have like my news update, I guess you could say, for anybody that's like watching it. But now that I'm like talking about everything, I'm like, damn, like this summer has been great for new opportunities, like the opportunity that I had to do something with Instagram, collaborate with Instagram. Earlier in June, I had the opportunity to write for Color Block, which I'm sure a lot of you guys read that article that I was able to create. So that was something that I wrote, went through like the review process. It was really nice for me to get back into the habit of like writing for public consumption. And having the opportunity to also do videos and do these things that I have created my like career, my new career, my new lifestyle to be, but also struggling with feeling worthy enough, or feeling like, why me? Like, why am I being chosen? Like, am I as knowledgeable as other people are seeing me as? And then in the background, dealing with so much. So it's just been a very heavy summer as far as getting caught back up in things that I know that I have needed to let go of, but still struggle with finding the replacement to help me feel, I wouldn't even necessarily say good. I honestly don't even know what it is that I'm searching for, but it's like I found myself drinking like in the months of like, I want to say like May, June for some reason, like trying it out more or less like June, because I felt like in May I was starting to feel a lot of pressure, and you know, old habits die hard. So going back into habit of like picking up alcohol, and my own, I guess, like, what's the word? Like standard would be, oh, like if you're not blacking out, you know what I'm saying? If you're not pissing the bed, like if you're not getting into arguments with like your friends or like doing some like off the wall shit, then like you'll be fine. And it's not as bad of a habit as what it may have been in the past. I know I've talked about this quite a lot, and you know, over the history of me sharing like my stories with you all, and you know, with the collective, and just like through my work and stuff like that. But I come from some really heavy times with drinking and also just like with drugs. So seeing like, you know, people overdosing and stuff like that this summer, and also just like having my own like back and forth stint with just, you know, drugs and alcohol had really kind of like taken me out of this place of like mental stability and mental focus. And also I just found myself in my emotions just really being like on a roller coaster. It feels like there would be like maybe 2 or 3 days where I would be emotionally stable, and then it would be like 2 or 3 weeks where I didn't want to talk to people, didn't feel emotionally stable enough to just like be living a lot of depression, a lot of just like very dark thoughts, a lot of like, you know, feeling very lost in this life. And I'm still coming out of some of those moments. And part of the reason why this month of September is so important to me is because this is like my sober September. Y'all know I'm a weed connoisseur, a weed supporter. Like, you know, I love me some marijuana, but I did make a pact with my best friend in order to just like stay clear of everything. And now I'm in this place of dealing with withdrawal symptoms, waking up sweating in the mornings, because my body is not getting what it's used to. And it's like trying to figure out how to replace that, and also just like really trying to just like reorient my mind. And I guess like in this moment, like I'm asking Ricardo for strength for me to continue talking, because these things are really, my stomach just growled. These things are really, it's a very vulnerable thing to talk about. It's a very vulnerable thing to talk about. Like, you know, sometimes when I was looking for that sense of peace, or, you know, sometimes when it was like I wanted to talk to people but didn't have the gumption or the energy to do such, you know, drugs would give that to me. Drugs would make me feel like I could socialize, or, you know, wanted to talk a little bit more, like wanted to like be in space with other folks, because I've been feeling very uncomfortable within my own skin. I've been feeling very, I don't know, just, I've been feeling just not like myself, or not like who I feel like I should be as a 31, almost 32-year-old. I've been feeling very, you know, unattractive, feeling overweight, feeling like, you know, I don't look like my friends, or I'm not doing, you know, I'm in this realm of doing like spiritual work, being in the wellness sector, working with people like one-to-one, and this is kind of the, you know, the new life that I've created for myself. But it's just like, what makes me the patron saint, or what makes me capable of doing this? And then also like for me, on top of that, because of it kind of like being equated to like this religious belief, or this, you know, like basically me thinking of like the people that I grew up hearing being like Bible thumpers and shit like that, or being Christians, and then, you know, having a certain sort of air of carrying themselves. And I'm like, I'm so far from that, and I'm not trying to be that type of person. I really just want to be myself. And then also people coming to me looking for like guidance, or, you know, people hit me up like, hey, like I haven't seen you on, you know, Twitter, I haven't seen you on Instagram, I haven't seen your posts, like, are you okay? Like, you're not your normal self. And I'm like, well, girl, like I'm over here trying to maintain my own fucking sobriety right now for my own mental stability. And that has just been up and down, and being in therapy and feeling like therapy was opening up a lot of wounds and opening up my eyes to a lot of things that I'm still dealing with, such as some of my own internalized homophobia, some of my own, you know, some of the worries that I've had around just not being desirable, You know, I look at myself sometimes and I'm like, I hate my smile sometimes. I hate the gap on the side of my teeth right here. I hate that, you know, I've smoked so much for like years that it feels like, you know, whenever I smile, it's just like disgusting. I tried to, you know, do like teeth whitening and stuff like that, but obviously like doing it for myself because I couldn't afford to go to a dentist, or just figuring out like the right dentist to go to. So it's like all of these things, you know, I just haven't been feeling good. And it's like sometimes I have these moments where I'm like, no, like you really are the shit. Like, you know, you deserve to, you know, be beautiful. Like you should feel, you know, good with yourself, and you should feel confident in yourself. And it's like, you know, other people will affirm me, be like, you look so good, or you so fine, da 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 da. And I think part of it is like when it comes from women, I've been struggling to accept it because it's like I'm not attracted to women in that way. So it's like I hear it, but it doesn't necessarily like resonate the same, that I may be looking for it to come from a man or come from like, you know, a male presenting figure or what have you. And I know that that sounds very shallow, but that's just like my truth. And I've been really struggling to just like get back on track with just feeling good about who I am, and feeling good about the direction I am headed with my life, and also having to look at like what I have accomplished, you know, externally, or what I have accomplished like through my work or for the collective and everything like that. And sometimes it just hasn't felt good. Like it feels like, you know, I'm grateful for it, but I'm also, sometimes I feel as though I'm not all the way where I want to be or where I thought I would be. And I have been rationalizing with the thought like, girl, like this is the body that you were given. This is what you are blessed with in this lifetime. So appreciate it to its fullest. Like everybody has their own issues. Everybody's dealing with their own problems. And this is your physical limitations, your physical capabilities. And the more that you appreciate it and acknowledge it as a positive instead of it being a negative, and try and hold yourself accountable to becoming better and doing the things that help you to feel more secure within yourself, the more you will start to see these things come to, you know, be of blessing and be of benefit, instead of it being a detriment and you feeling like you're unworthy, or you feeling like, you know, you're never gonna fall in love with somebody that's going to like love your skin that you're in, because you don't necessarily love the skin that you're in 100%. And something that he always made me feel good. And I also feel like that's part of the reason why this summer has been like stressful. I was assaulted again or I don't even know if I want to call it assault, but it kind of was. Let's just say I woke up in a very uncomfortable situation at the top of July, and I didn't know what happened. I didn't know who like all of that like was with, so it made me just feel very like dirty. The one person that I have grown close to over the last couple of years and have really kind of like, I don't know, they're the only person I feel like I trusted, and they can, you know, just like understand me from like a deeper perspective. Just came to the realization that we are not meant to be in that space with one another, and that really hurt. Because that's the one person I can think of over the last probably like 2 years, probably over the majority of my life now that I think about it, that I've been able to open up with, or open up to completely, with no walls, no guards. And it's just like, I want you to be my person, but you're not my person. And that's been hard to like recognize. So that's just like the overarching like vibrations of like what this summer has been. And I know that the summertime for me habitually has been a very stressful time of the year. I can go back to when I was a teenager, and I was like, during the summertime, that was the summer that I ended up basically like being outed by like my family, and like being dragged to like their jobs and having to read like Bible verses because they didn't trust me to be at home, being like, I guess like questioning or gay or whatever. Truth burp. And it was just like the summers have always been tough. So I've been looking forward to the fall, of course, because of my birthday coming up. You know, stepping into this new year, but then also feeling like I wasted some of my 20s not being as confident or not being as secure in myself as I should be. And then I'm like, you are in your early 30s now. You should not be dealing with some of these same issues, or some of these same shortcomings that you've been dealing with all your life. And now I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I'm still trying to figure out what the answer to that is. Uh, but I feel like talking about it and acknowledging it is really the only thing that I can do in order for me to overcome it. And I'm still struggling with feeling that I am, I'm worthy, I am deserving, even though I know that I completely am, and I am a good person. Sometimes I think that I'm not, sometimes I think, people may think that I, am all of this, all that in a bag of chips, but like, do I feel the same way about myself? And I feel like I've been going through like that juggling act. And I've been trying to figure out what it is that I actually want right now, what it is that I actually want out of my life. Like I've been, I talk about like wanting to move out of Bed-Stuy. I've been living here since 2014. This summer my friends moved away, so that's been a really hard adjustment for me to just like not be able to like get up and walk to their house, and like go watch TV or just like go hang out and like smoke a blunt or like catch up. And it makes us have to plan, like even being on the phone, or just like plan times to connect with one another in a way that I feel like I took for granted for the last couple of years. So it's just been a very lonely time. And I also have not been in a space to really want to let anybody else into that energy with me, because I don't want to be a burden to anyone else, especially when I feel like I'm still trying to put words together for all of the feelings that I'm feeling. I should put a trigger warning at the very beginning of this, and I apologize if I am dumping, but I have been really wanting to just be honest. I feel like, it looks good, or it may look good, or it may have a certain look on the surface. People always come to me and they're like, I'm really, proud of like, you've grown so much. Like, you went from doing your daily videos and now you're in these magazines, like now you're, being filmed and like, recruited places. And I'm still amazed that I'm doing this. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm still amazed that over the last 2 years, I've been able to completely shift the trajectory of my life. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be next. But I'm also just like, well, what does that mean? I think about what I wanted when I was a teenager. All I wanted was to be free. All I wanted was to be, comfortable in my sexuality, in my own skin. All I wanted was to be able to like live, travel, do things. I'm doing that. And I think that, 13-year-old me, 15-year-old me, 9-year-old me would be proud of how far that I've come. But I still feel like there's obviously nothing's ever going to be perfect, and there's things that are missing. I'm still in this place where I'm like, am I ready for companionship as much as I would love to say that I am? Have I done the work enough to recognize where my own shortcomings are and where I may not be giving myself enough credit, or where I may not be treating myself with the most love? And then am I also in a space to receive that love from other people who are willing and wanting to give that to me? And then why do I create blockages, or why do I create friction with people when they are trying to get close to me? Why am I trying to keep people away, or just, keep these walls up? And I think it's just because of a sense of safety. I've also been just like dealing with like the pangs of getting older. Like my mom had carpal tunnel. So it's like a form of arthritis, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like I've been having a lot of like pains like in my hands, sometimes in like basically in my hands. Like it's like this bone right here, like my middle finger has been, it's like some mornings I wake up, it's fine. Some mornings I wake up, it's a dull pain, and it just kind of like, gets a little bit more intense as the day goes on. Sometimes it goes away. It's like I don't really know what the fuck is happening. I also am in the doctor probably like every 2 or 3 months, and I'm also like, that's not healthy because of my own paranoia. I'm always thinking something is wrong, or I wish that you knew how many times in my mind I like think like, is this my last day on earth? Like, am I just gonna pass away? Are my lungs gonna stop working? Like all this type of shit. And I'm just like, I cannot continue to overthink, because I feel like that is what's been really like fucking with me. Of course, like mental health medication comes into play, or just like these things have been stuff that I've been like thinking about. But the last time that I was on any sort of like medication for like my mental health, I basically like overdosed, and ended up like spiraling out like in my house. So it's like I have this desire to just like want to get back to this space of stability and really just take the reins of stability where I can take them. But then at the same time, it's like I don't really know what I need, so I'm just trying to allow the universe to put those answers or put that clarity into, my space as time goes on. And it's just like, I know that, the time of the year probably affected a lot of just like my waviness, and maybe it'll become a little bit more stable now, but I'm trying to do my best to take care of myself. And I'm always trying to do the best to take care of myself. And I say that, but it's just like, I'm trying to figure out how to best take care of myself with the limitations that I have today. Going to the gym is not for me. I don't like being around those people. I always feel like there are eyes on me no matter wherever I go. I don't know. Sometimes when I step outside of the four walls of my house, I feel like everybody is looking at me. Okay? I feel like everybody is looking at me, and it brings me this sense of, feeling like I have to stand taller or, be a little bit more masculine in the streets, or, just like overthinking every single thing about my identity. And I'm just so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. And I'm praying that, as I get closer to my birthday and beyond, like I can hold on to the sense of clarity that I feel like is coming little by little. The fog that's like lifting, but I have been feeling very disconnected to myself. And I'm just praying and just like trying to be very intentional about how I do choose to reconnect. And I know that fall brings that normally, so I have this responsibility to myself to like take care of myself and do the things that I do that makes me happy. Part of the reason why I stopped doing like one-to-one readings or like working with people in that way is because it's just been a lot. It's been a lot. It's like I do enjoy the work that I do, being able to help others, but I'm in the process of trying to help myself. I'm like, when I have the space and capacity to help somebody else, trust and believe I will. But I want to make sure that I'm bringing my gifts to people when it's a space of excess and not a space of just doing it because I feel like I should be. And I feel like, God, my ancestors, my spirit guides are telling me that time is coming again, where I will be available for folks in that way. But I'm still choosing myself. It's still very much hermit energy and taking it day by day, taking it moment to moment. Like I don't have to explain myself, and I know that, but I'm the type of person because, Libra moon, love to give a little context, Libra Mercury, Libra Mars, like I love to give a little context as to where I'm coming from, so that way it makes sense as to how I'm moving. And I just feel like that sense of transparency is what I've built my life off of. And somebody told me that, I've given a voice to people that felt like they didn't have a voice. And that's been the purpose and the premise as to why I even started doing videos, why I even started pulling cards, why I even started being a content creator in that sense. And, now I'm starting to realize like there's certain aspects of social media that are taking away from me feeling good about myself. And I'm like, do I want to continue to play into this realm that I feel like I have to wrestle back and forth with just how I feel about me and feeling good about what it is that I'm doing and not trying to compare my journey, my path to others. So I'm still figuring that out. And I say all this to say that, somebody else out there may be feeling that sense of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not doing the right thing, or what have you. But I feel like, the spirit, the universe always leads us back to our purpose. And I've been questioning mine a lot. And I don't necessarily know what my purpose in this new season is supposed to look like. Especially as I am even like, as I've talked this whole time, I'm like, you sound stupid. You are stumbling over your words. You're not as clear as you maybe once were. Maybe you've fucked up your brain from all of the shit that you've done over this lifetime. And now I'm just trying to just like remind myself like, no, like you've always been good. Your personality has always shined, your truth has always shined, your light has always shined on people and shine for yourself. So please don't give up on you. So if somebody out there needs it, please don't give up on yourself. Please don't give up on yourself. Please don't give up on yourself. Because there's so much more that's coming, and we just have to sit and continue to take it day by day. It's crazy sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, this is the same body that you've been waking up with every fucking day in this lifetime. This is not a different body. You ain't get no transference, you know what I'm saying? This is all natural, you dig? So All I'm trying to do is be honest and authentic to that energy. But my mind body detox, because I was playing this mind body detox brainwave in the background. Y'all know me, music has been my salvation. And ever since the transition of my uncle, and he was the person I felt like introduced me to music as like in terms of healing and in terms of it being able to put my feelings and my vibrations into words a little bit differently. I feel like this is a beautiful place for me to stop this video, but if you made it to the end, thank you. Thank you for holding space for me and receiving me in my truth, in my disarray sometimes. But I just felt like I needed to get that off of my chest and also like be honest. I've always been honest. And if you know of somebody that needs support, if you know somebody that is dealing with any sort of substance abuse, or just wanting to take ownership back of their life, please, just continue to love on them, continue to support them, continue to be their, what's the word? Their accountability buddy. You know what I'm saying? In whatever way that you can be. And if it feels like too much, then that's cool. I found my ways to have accountability buddies around me and people that remind me, to just like stay mentally clear and stay mentally focused. I ain't saying, because marijuana is medicine, and I will go back to it, but I feel like this is a great reset for me to not rely on it in the same way that I always have, if that makes sense. But yes, thank you. Thank you for receiving me. Thank you for hearing me out. And thank you, Gary DeAndre, because you know that you'll probably watch this in like couple of years and you'll be like, yeah girl, you made it through that time, as you've always made it through these times. That's another thing that I'm going to actually close on. I find it very ironic. Gary DeAndre is where I think that I am leading into as far as like my identity in the public. I feel like Gangsta Guri is like the spiritual guru. Gary DeAndre is me as my entity, like that infused, but not me. How do I say that? Like, I feel like Gary DeAndre is like me with all of those parts combined, like the shadows, the darkness, the light, everything. And Gangsta Guri is when I hop into like my spiritual bag. Gigi, if you're nasty and all that stuff. So I'm really learning how to lean into me. Me today, if that makes sense. So I hope that you are choosing to lean into and love on yourself today. I love you. I appreciate you, no matter where you are, if you're reading this or maybe some message in here. For some queer baby out there, some trans baby out there, I'm thinking of you, and I'm doing this for y'all, because I wish that I had somebody to be able to look up to that looked like me and was honest about their shortcomings, even when it feels like the world is giving them all of their just desserts. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah, have a blessed rest of your weekend.